Welcome back to That Millwall Podcast. We're coming at you after a massive 1-0 win at the Den against Middlesbrough, 3 home wins on the bounce, and dare I say it, are we actually building momentum to just at the right time? Neghli came off the bench, scores the winner, and then gets injured in true Millwall style. I've got Ben with me. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. How are you?
Not too shabby, mate. All the better for 3 wins on the bounce, mate.
Absolutely flying, mate. Absolutely flying, and I'm sure going to be a big talking point for the rest of the show. And you just said to me before we went live, do we start believing?
Do we start believing? I know. I mean,
half an eye on it.
I feel like the last couple of shows I've done, do we still believe? And it's just continued on, mate. So it's like the Millwall way, isn't it, mate? Just like, I'm waiting for the wake-up call or the bringing back down to earth in a sense. But we'll probably talk about it in more detail in a sec. If you're new around here, guys, please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, follow us on socials at That Millwall Pod. As always, I'll cue our intro, and then we'll go straight into Saturday's 1-0 win against Borough.
Language you don't usually hear on television. Millwall in London's Dockland.
No one likes it, but we don't care. We're That Millwall Podcast. Loud every Friday night right here. Legends like Jimmy Abdul, Teddy Sheringham in the kitchen too. Super Neil Harris, a fucking legend too. Through the good times when this life will support the liars all our life. This ain't no place for fancy TV. This is fucking Millwall through and through. Located on our very own John Benison way. Let them all come, let them have their say. Millwall till we die. With That Millwall Podcast. Loud every Friday night right here.
Right, come on then, Ben. Let's talk about it. We won 3 on the bounce. We're 4th in the form table for the last 15 games. It's kind of snuck up on us, I feel like, a little bit. But yeah, mate, what's your thoughts after Saturday's win, mate?
Well, listen, it was... Actually, let me take a step back. I keep getting asked by all my mates, is it going to happen? And I've been quietly playing it down. No, we're just going about our business. Keep winning, we keep winning, we keep winning. And then I said, if we win on Saturday, we're right in it. But results have to go our way. Bristol City dropped points. Sunderland, I know they're out of our reach anyway, but they dropped points. We obviously beat Borough. And then now you start looking at it and going, we've got 3 very winnable games. It would be true Millwall fashion to go, and now when we do start thinking about it, talking about it, that we perhaps don't win those games against 3 teams that are pretty much got nothing to play for now. So, mate, look, it's been, whichever way we look at it, mate, it's been an incredible run towards this sort of last third of the season or last quarter of the season. So, yeah, look, very good performance. Always thought it was going to be a tight and tough game against Borough. Obviously, they want to keep their playoff aspirations alive as well. But, yeah, I think the job that Alex Neil's done, mate, has been nothing short of phenomenal, really. I know you can argue he's had a lot more at his disposal than maybe Neil Harris, but that's probably a far bigger talking point and one for a different show. The amount of injuries you've had as well, mate, you've got to take that into consideration. But look, it's been an incredible run. And whatever does happen over the last 4 games now, it stands us in good stead for next year when you'd expect us to go and strengthen again. So, I know I've spoken about a whole lot of different things there, but in short, yeah, look, it's been an exciting time to be a Millwall fan again, isn't it?
No, absolutely, mate, and you're right. I think I was quietly confident for Saturday. I mean, obviously previewed it on Friday and stuff, and I kept being adamant we'll win 1-0. I got it right this time. If anyone watching, I remember watching Friday, I got it spot on. But I think it reminds me a bit of last season, towards the end of last season, albeit different circumstances. Remember all the 5 wins on the bounce, 1-0s and stuff, and I mean, we took 9 points from Pompey, Sheffield United away, and Borough at home, mate. And like, if you said to me at the start of last week, like, you'd beat your hand off it, wouldn't you? And I think it's kind of, I think a lot of it obviously comes down to Alex Neil and his impact so far, but also the squad of players we've got. You're right to mention the injuries. Obviously, Aziz and Neghli were on the bench on the weekend, and the latter came off the bench and scored the winner. But there's also that kind of the core of the squad still there from last season, which I think does carry some value. We're typically a good second half season side, ain't we, normally? And I think the players in there have sensed the opportunity of late, and they seem to be coming up with the goods, right?
Yeah, they have been, mate. And a lot of the players probably in question as well are people that are, dare I say, playing for contracts next year. Again, probably a talking point for a bigger show, but there's going to be some turnover, and it's going to be interesting now with the players that we've had out injured and the players that have stepped in. A lot of those, as I've just mentioned, being players that are out of contract, where Alex Neil sees them fitting in next year, or whether he does at all. But look, it's been a monumental effort from the players. As I say, you go through the list of players we do have out, they're arguably all near enough starters. Well, obviously they are in Tango. Aziz has been excellent for us. And then there's just two. Neghli, obviously, record signing. So, yeah, they're big players that we're missing. But, yeah, credit to the squad. Players have started to step up as well. I know, again, we're going to talk about it in a bit more detail, but Billy's been excellent last few games. So, yeah, it stands, again, as I said it earlier, it stands in good stead. Whatever happens over these 4 games, there's now questions to be asked about the players, what happens to them next year, and it puts us in a good position for that because, yeah, we're going to finish the season relatively well, whichever way you look at it.
I'm just surprised you haven't mentioned Danny McNamara and Watmore being injured as well to offer some contributions, mate. It's but no.
well, listen, Danny, we know all about. I think we don't have to talk about Danny on this show. We're big fans of his. The injuries come at a horrendous time for him, just with Alex Neil, obviously new manager. He would have been keen to obviously get some game time. Duncan Watmore's an interesting one with me. I had a chat with my dad about him on Saturday, and I don't want to say he divides opinion, because I'd say there's probably more people slightly against him than with him. Maybe a 60-40 sort of split, but it's not a heavily weighted either way in terms of which side of the fence you sit on with Duncan Watmore. Look, he started the season unbelievably, didn't he? But you always know he's got an injury in him that's going to keep him out for a period of time. And just the way that we're now trying to build the club and the squad, do we want to? Will we keep someone like Duncan Watmore? Again, the injuries come at a horrendous time for him because the team's in good form. We've signed players in his position now in the wide areas. Amaku's come back from injury, etc. So, as I say, it's a really bad time for him to be injured. But look, Danny Mack's going to be an interesting one. I think we'll keep him around. Duncan Watmore, I'm not so sure about, mate. I don't know what you're thinking.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think it's the beginning of the end for him. But it's, like you say, a lot of players play for contracts, and it was a bit tongue-in-cheek, obviously, my initial comment there. But I mean, on the Saturday's game, obviously, we made one change prior to kick-off. Obviously, Coburn couldn't play, big absentee, because obviously him and Ivanovic seemed to have struck a good partnership. Both played amazingly well on Tuesday night at Bramall Lane. But Marco came in, so it was Jensen, Leonard, Crammer continuing with Cooper at centre-half. I'm sure we'll come on to Crammer in a bit. Joe Bryan at left-back, and then we had Denora and Mitchell midfield, Honeyman and Kundal and then Marco playing off the left-hand side. Quite clear and evident, I think, and in his comments after the game, the manager did comment on, obviously, the setup in the first half with the Serb leading the line. I mean, I thought Marco would get his opportunity. I actually did back, I said it on Friday's show, but I backed 1-0 Marco. I fancied like a Ivanovic flick on, a kind of, them vision kind of things you get when you talk yourself into it, Ben. And I was thinking, good opportunity here. I did also think he'd go with 2 up top. He didn't first half, and Borough had a lot of the ball. Didn't really test us, fortunately. I don't think there was much noteworthy from the first half, really, to be honest. And I think we'll come on to the changes in the second half, but the first half just felt a bit flat and needed a bit of a spark to get the crowd into play. And we'll come on to the second half in a bit. But yeah, it was interesting that he kind of moved away from the 2 up top, I suppose, when it served us so well, like Ben. Yeah,
it was. It was probably a little bit more enforced. Well, it was enforced, right? Coburn not being available to play against his home club in Borough. Does it give us another little view on Langstaff for next year? Possibly, because he could have quite easily stayed with 2 up top and obviously put Langstaff in, couldn't he? We've said that so many times this year. I was surprised. I did also think there was a possibility of seeing Amaku down the middle. But again, his hands were probably tied in terms of who he had fit to start the game. I know we saw Aziz come on, and I know we saw Neghli come on. But yeah, it was always a game where I felt Borough were going to dominate the ball. They are possession hungry. So by setting up and staying in the game first half, I didn't think it was a bad thing. They didn't really threaten us, did they, too much in terms of that first half?
No, for sure. I think I'll say that at half time anyway, so it's going off there. But I felt like he almost made it a 45-minute game. And I was saying it at half time prior to even seeing the subs. And obviously, Kundal came off, who again was pretty poor, to be honest, which is disappointing. I think he's one that almost trying to find his best position in the side. We know he's kind of, likes to get the ball turn and run up teams. And I think away from home, we've seen some performances from him that I think are not too bad. And even at Sunderland, he had a half chance, I remember, where he picks the ball up from deep and obviously travels with it. And it's getting him in the moments, isn't it? More than anything, these sort of players. Performances will kind of come in and out, but you want him to have them moments. But he came off at half time, Langstaff comes in, and before you know it, he chucks on Saville, Aziz, Neghli on 58 minutes and really turns the game on its head. And obviously, it reaped the rewards in the end. But I think it's, some interesting talk about this day. Obviously, Kundal flattering to deceive, but then Langstaff did come in and look lively up top with the serve. We went to the two up top and gave them a problem. And I think credit does go to Alex Neil because he changed the game with his head, didn't he? Big time in the second half.
Yeah, like you say, he's obviously gone into it with making it a 45-minute game. Probably looked at the players that we had coming off the bench and he maybe thought, I'm better off giving them 45 minutes. They can almost give 100% than give them 60 and they might have to come off or might aggravate it just with that extra sort of 15 minutes. So, yeah, I think you were right in that aspect, mate. Yeah. I just want to touch upon Kundal and I don't want to touch upon Langstaff. That's all right, mate. Kundal, for me, when we signed him, I think we all went, that is exactly what we've needed, exactly who we've needed in that 10. And so far, he scored on debut, but we haven't really seen. He was good at Leeds actually in the FA Cup. I'll give him that. He was good. His press was excellent. He looked neat and tidy in tight areas for us. But like you say, apart from that, mate, it's been a little bit sort of bit part and been in moments away from home. Preston, he did okay away from home. Derby, I thought he was poor away from home. And like you mentioned, mate, I'm a little bit. Where does he fit in? What is his best position? Is it a reason that we've seen him out on loan a couple of times to Championship clubs and they haven't taken the chance on him? I'm by no means writing him off or anything, but it just question marks at the minute for me. I'm sort of going, like you say, I just want a little bit more from him. That's really the best way to sum it up. I want a little bit more from him. And who else did I mention I want to talk about? Langstaff. Yeah, mate, look, he again... He changed the game for us, I thought, second half a bit because even his pressing and his work rate off the ball, it just gave them something else to think about and they just couldn't keep it in their back four, back three, what they were basically playing. But I mentioned it a second ago, long term, mate, do we think what's he going to do? Do you think we'll see him in a Millwall shirt next year ultimately?
I think you mentioned obviously not starting him, and I think that was the biggest telling point. Does the manager have faith in him? Probably not. I think he had to roll the dice, and obviously Kundal wasn't having a great game, and it brought the chance to bring in Langstaff for 45 minutes to show what he's about. You did see that. You mentioned obviously his pressing and his work rate. I think he got fouled, to be honest. We should have had a penalty on the straight after the second half commenced, really, and I think you see bits and bobs from him, and he's not actually had the opportunity to play with two up top, for example, Ben either, which is something we should throw into the mix. I mean, at Notts County, he's getting chances galore and quite an attacking setup. He will get chances if we play how we did in the second half, I feel like, on the weekend. But when's that opportunity going to come to him? Because, this is the crunch end of the season. We need results, and the manager didn't start you when the other striker's not available. And that's the problem. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. It's a tricky one. Do you maybe give him another pre-season and maybe start the season? Or is he maybe thinking of himself as well? Is Notts County available to go back to? Or can I go to a top League One side? Some of these sides will get relegated this summer and maybe Plymouth might want to take a chance in. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be here next season. If you had to ask me, I'd probably go 65% he's going, 35% he might stick around and stay because you don't know. It just depends what happens with us and our circumstance. But he's not really going to get the opportunity because we need results. If we lose on Friday and Monday, maybe we'll get a couple of games at the end of the season, show us a glimpse. But yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just... You look at that situation in a must-win game. And I get that we just spoke about it. Alex Neil turning it into a 45-minute match, keeping it tight. So maybe the two up top was an element of that. But yeah, in that sort of game at home, you're almost thinking... Your other striker's can't play because he's from his parent club. he's got to get his chance there, or even if he doesn't play well, sort of almost the other way round, that he would have started and come off at half time if it wasn't working. So, yeah, I do take on board he hasn't played in a 2. We might see him at best effect there. There's still that nagging doubt for me, and I know people are going to be in the comments and say you can't score 1,000 goals in the lower leagues and then not be able to do it in the Championship. I get that. I do. I really do. But he did play in a free-flowing, free-scoring Notts County team. I don't see us ever being that, where we're going to create 3 or 4 chances for him a game. He's going to need to take his 1 chance, at most 2 chances that he gets a game for us. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'd imagine you haven't heard much about Coburn, really, have we, in terms of signing on a permanent deal? So it's almost certainly going to be on the shopping list, isn't it, a centre forward again?
Yeah, for sure. I think if there is a chance to do Coburn, I think interesting talk point from Saturday, actually, talk to people at the ground and stuff. What's the price tag for Coburn at this point? Because he's obviously scoring when he's available. His goal return's not too bad. I think it's probably 1 in 3 on the top of my head. Obviously, the fitness has been the main kind of issue with him and keeping him available to play games, really. What kind of price tag would you go to? I think I went as far as probably 2.5 million still. I don't know what Middlesbrough want. That's obviously, it's the ultimate question. But how far would you go with this if we was going to pursue him in the summer?
Well, I think it's going to always be against what else is available, right? And what are they going to cost us? If we went and spent £2 million on Josh Coburn, would I be happy? I don't know. And I don't know if that's maybe just a little bit of the grass is greener, and I don't even know what the greener grass is in terms of who that player might be. But yeah, I don't know, mate. Honestly, I know people are going to be listening to this and go, "You're on a podcast, you have an opinion." But I'm not sure. I'm a real 50-50 with Coburn. Sometimes I see him and think, yeah, he's a real game changer. He's a handful. You can see where he fits in. It will help Ivanovic, I think, because we've almost had to lean on him to be that target man. And now we're sort of seeing with Coburn and him playing up top that he can be sort of the man on the shoulder. I think that'll benefit him more. So, yeah, maybe now I'm thinking, maybe £2 million would be a good signing. But again,
comments, guys. What do you think? Would you spend $2 million for him? I suppose, but open to the chat as well. But yeah, I mean, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, and there is the injury aspects to it as well, right? We love someone who's made of poppadoms, don't we? So I think there's got to be that weighed up. Listen, there's also the part of, like you mentioned, mate. How much will Borough want? What do they value him at? And the player, does he want to stay down? Does he want to go back and try and get into that first team at Middlesbrough? Would he be able to? Would he be good enough? Does he suit their style of play? Does Michael Carrick stay on at the end of this year? All those are questions that will be thrown into the mix as well. But yeah, I think Coburn's a real interesting debate for me. And as I say, I think he is one that's probably is 50-50 with most fans.
Absolutely. No, I do agree with you. I mean, let's move on to obviously the subs that I mentioned later on in the half, 58 minutes in. Triple sub. And like I said, kind of throw the toilet seat out in all intents and purposes. George Saville comes in for the Nor. Aziz comes in for Marku, and Neghli comes on for Honeymoon, the latter getting the goal, mate. I mean, not a bad first goal for the club. Aziz involved. Saville, I think, he also won the ball in midfield, if I'm not mistaken. So all 3 combining for the goal. Doesn't get better than that as a manager, I suppose, for the impact. But I want to name drop, obviously, Neghli for his goal, and obviously, unfortunately, getting injured, and it sounds like it's him done for the rest of the season, according to Alex Neil. Unless maybe our season gets elongated, I'm not sure. I mean, he did say his season's done. But obviously, Saville coming in, it obviously took the Nor off, who's played well of late, but kept Mitchell next to him, and all 3 combined for the goal, mate. It doesn't get better than that, right?
No, it's exactly what you want as a manager, isn't it? That your 3 substitutions come on and make an immediate impact. Just want to touch upon 2 things there that you mentioned. The George Saville off the bench. You've seen, obviously, Billy and Casper have been excellent in there in recent weeks. Have we seen almost what Sav has supposed to have been this season in terms of that last half an hour, starting the odd game sort of type player, just given his age now? Listen, I think Sav's been excellent this season for us. But I'll be sort of now seeing what he was supposed to have been this season for us. And the second part of that is one thing that, again, I spoke to my old man about was how impressed I've been with Alex Neil in terms of his proactiveness, making changes. He's always trying to affect the game. And I'm by no means sitting here slagging anyone off from a tactical perspective, any managers that we've had previously, but he seems again, this might be a bit of recency bias, but there's a bit of, he seems like he wants to, affect games. He wants to make changes to, tweak things tactically, whatever way that is going. Like we mentioned, it looked like we were setting up 4-4-2 Saturday in the first half. Clearly wasn't. And then we changed it. So he seems to be a very good tactical manager. And I think, again, from listening to Preston fans that spoke about when we first signed him, that was the case. They did also say it was interesting that when we go 1-0 down, he's not the best. We're not yet to see that, I would say. But my whole point there, mate, is he does seem to affect games with his changes and who he gets on the pitch. He doesn't often get that wrong, I would say.
I think this whole season, when we've gone ahead, we've not lost a game, which is obviously credit to the players, as we mentioned earlier on. But yeah, you're right. I think he is very proactive with his subs. It's not, there's no subbing on Sean Hutchinson at the end as well to see a game out per se. I think obviously Harding came on, Neghli eventually got injured. But I mean, on Neghli, it's a shame he's injured. But I think Alex Neil said it after the game in his interview, it could be a contribution that could prove so invaluable come the end of May, mate.
Yeah, I mean, if that is his contribution for the season done, and the unthinkable happens and we do get into the playoffs, what a contribution it will be. I'm also just wanting to think about that in a little bit of the bigger picture with Neghli. He started to struggle a little bit from it. Not struggle, but it felt like games bypassed him a little bit. The pace of it, the physicality, it felt at times. We've seen glimpses of the player that we've hoped we've signed. And maybe, again, just being out for that sort of 4 games for the rest of the year helps him settle a bit longer. Being around the squad a bit, might be overthinking that. But, listen, we always want your best players playing. But for him, it might just give him a chance to have a full run at next year in terms of that full pre-season, bed in a little bit more, get used to playing in the Championship or being around the Championship squad and players, that sort of thing. Look, if that is his contribution he's done, then what a contribution it might be.
Definitely. I mean, obviously Hardy came on, like I said, for Neghli towards the end, and right at the death, our goalie Jensen, another one that's had his doubters, but maybe again adapting to the league, adapting to circumstances, pulls up a wonder save right at the deathbed, and I think that he's obviously proven his value recently. And maybe we'll have to ask you a question because it's been the hot topic recently of who should we play the season. It's between 2 players. Who's your vote? Obviously Tanganga and Denor, but who comes third? And I think I keep kind of edging towards Jensen a little bit. And he performed on Saturday, and again 2 clean sheets on the bounce, 2 sides in the top 6, up there chasing, and he's been immense of late, hasn't he, Jensen?
He has, and there's still question marks for me over his distribution or his kicking. But listen, we sign keepers. We're not Man City, so we sign keepers to keep the ball out of the net. And I don't think anyone can deny his shot-stopping capabilities. He is very good. He obviously had a shaky start. He then improved. He still looked a bit shaky. I think he's just growing into that position now. And even after midweek when he come off and he was the one saying it's on boys, whatever he was saying to the camera. Listen, he's obviously grown into that personality, isn't he? So look, he's made some crucial saves for us this year. His shot stopping is as good as probably anyone in the league, I would say.
No, I'm with you. And who's your vote for player of the season then? Tanganga or Denor? I will be judging you on this answer, by the way, because I'm intrigued to know what you think. I'm not asked this question yet, so you don't know who I think either.
I'm gonna go with Kasper.
Okay, why?
I think he's now just realising what he needs to do in that Millwall midfield, and I think not having Sav next to him, again, this might be a bit of recency bias with Tanger just being out the side, but I think you've seen with him and Billy playing there, he's just taken on that sort of senior leader, midfield general type, the Sav role, basically. I think he has improved. I thought, again, you and I have been quite vocal on this, as he's been a little bit overrated, shall we say? I don't want to say that word because we're going to get absolute pelts for that. Not overrated, but listen, we've put him on a bit of a pedestal. Some fans have. But I think he's really improved this year. I think he's been excellent this run of games. And as I say, I think he's just really now moulded himself into what we need him to be in midfield.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if anyone's not watched previous shows, my vote for player of the season is Tanganga, purely because defensively. I mean, it's just obviously the impact he's had on the side. But then that does lead me on to who was the man of the match on the weekend. Obviously, you've got probably 3 or 4 players out there, Ben, which again, playing out their skin, doing the business. Billy Mitchell got the fans player of the match, and we'll probably talk about him now. But also Crammer, I think, highlighting, mentioned this point on a couple of shows now, but he's the best compliment you can pay him is the fact that Tanganga's
We're not
injured.
missing Tango.
And I said this after the Sheffield United game. The best compliment I paid from that night was I didn't miss Tanganga, and I was fearing the worst, thinking he's injured. But Crammer and Cooper as well of late. Again, I think he's been fairly consistent with his performances, but Crammer in particular just stepped into the shoes of a really important player for us and made it look effortless. And again, everything, he reads the game well, steps out well, he's got pace, he's fucking massive, and he can win headers. He's got the right
beautiful.
Yeah, and he's beautiful, exactly. Billy Mitchell, mate, both amazing on Saturday, I thought.
Yeah, look, to touch upon Billy, obviously you and I are very much the Billy Mitchell fanboys. He's been excellent. He was excellent against Sheffield United, right? He's been excellent for 4 or 5 games now that he's started. He's done really well. I'm really pleased for him. We're now seeing, again, from him a bit of maturity in his game. He's affecting games moving forward, just with his passing range. Billy's been brilliant. I mean, Crammer, what a find. I mean, again, how I talk about this quite a lot, not only from our club, but football in general. When I look at recruitment teams and scouts and recruitment analysts, all these clubs have now, how have another championship not seen him playing for Exeter and seen his physical attributes, seen that he's come from a very good academy in Brentford or a team that picks up players from European leagues like they did with Crammer, and gone, these worth a punt. Listen, we don't know what the fee was, but I don't think it broke the bank, did it? I don't think it was anywhere near £1 million from what had been touted online. Just what a find, mate. And as you said, the highest compliment you can play him is we haven't missed Tango. We've looked really solid, which is mad.
Yeah.
And if we do, again, if Tango does go in the summer, we've got someone who's looking like he can just slot in there, and we're not going to miss Tango, as I said, which we haven't over the last couple of games. So, yeah, look, you run out of superlatives for both, well, for Crammer and for Billy in the last few games in my head, because they've both been excellent.
I think people forget as well at the start of the season, the first 2 games where Tanganga was injured and Hutchinson played and did 3 against Watford, 4 against Bristol City, and then he comes back in and I think we see like 7 and 15 or something stupid. Do you know what I mean? So
do we think we're going to see another Hutch has left the club that he signed on 3 days later again, just to wind everyone up?
I don't think. I think when I saw the interview, I think it was Sack Sturch and Bangor Williams maybe, but the club put out, and they're saying that Hutch is going around putting sellotape in the change room for fines and stuff, so people walk into it, they get fined. I was like, you're the Alex Pearce role at the minute now, that's your place. But I think it's probably the end. I mean, Hutch has been incredible for us, and it's easy to get all that stuff over time. But yeah, I think it is another one, along with the likes of Watmore, who will be showing the door for sure. I mean, mate, great result. Let's think about it now. Can we do it? But that is the question. I think the bigger picture is, look, can we make the playoffs? We're 9th place, 60 points. Remaining fixtures of Blackburn away, Norwich at home, Swansea at home, and Burnley away. You touched on the first 3 being games we should win. And you've said that comment already now, Ben, so there's no going back. But what points do you reckon we're going to need, mate? I mean, 70 points, 70 plus? I think we're currently sitting, like I said, on 60 points. If we get 3 wins and a draw, I think we're going to be there, don't we? I mean, Coventry played tonight. I hope to get us on YouTube tonight as well. But Coventry play away to Hull, I believe. That's obviously, we need Hull to do us a favour. They're fighting for their lives, aren't they, towards the bottom of the table? Can we? And what do we need to do it, is the question to you, mate.
Can we? Well, look, if you have a look at Coventry's fixtures, they are playing teams that are all fighting for their lives in one way, shape or form. You mentioned they've got Hull away tonight. They've got West Brom Friday night, which Friday for Good Friday. So yeah. Tough game. Obviously, they're fighting for the playoffs as well. Plymouth, and then who have they got last game? Luton. So that could be a huge game. Oh, and then Borough again, last game of the season. Sorry. So all those teams have something to play for. What do I think we need? If we won 3 games, would we make it? We should, I think.
Especially with the teams playing against each other, like you mentioned. West Brom, I think, are also playing sides. I think they've got like you said, Coventry. They're playing Derby as well, who are down the bottom. Cardiff away and Luton at home last game of the season. So look, we've got a favourable running, barring the last game of the season. And you know what? By that point of the season, I know Burnley have been unbelievable this year. And listen, they could play three sides, like their third side, and probably still give us a game. So it's like, I don't know, but if they're promoted by that point, and maybe Leeds have lost a game and they've won the league by the last game of the season, travelling up there, it'll be all that hope that I'm looking for us to come crashing down, I suppose. I mean, you've just got to take
what's going to happen.
Yeah, the old cliche, though, game by game, isn't it, mate? And Blackburn's another one that's kind of just, they're still lingering, but they're 4 points behind us now. So their season's all but done, you'd feel like. So it's a good time to play them. And they're free falling after Eustace left. So we're one of the form sides and got to back it, right? But it's just got to be game by game, hasn't it? The old cliche.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's got to be game by game. There's other sort of factors with all those games. Blackburn, as you said, kind of in turmoil as a club. It seems there's a lot going off the field as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that could play into our hands. Norwich is a one because we never fucking beat Norwich, ever. Mm-hmm. So that's the game for me. They've got nothing to play for. Does that make them dangerous? I actually just was having a look before I came on. Believe it or not, they've got 2 out of the 3 top goal scorers in the league this year, which worries me. So there's that. Swansea, you think, yeah, again, nothing to play for. Listen, if we need to go to Burnley and get something, depending on how the league looks for them, am I confident we're going to get a spot? Probably not. But hopefully they're sort of done and dusted by then. They're picking up the trophy, finishing second, whatever it might be, and they might already be on holiday. But listen, it is game by game. If you wanted 3 games to play, you want 3 teams that haven't really got too much to play for. As you said, Blackburn 4 points behind us. They're out of it in terms of the playoff picture. And likewise, Norwich and Swansea. Swansea should be safe. They won at the weekend, didn't they? So they should be pretty much safe now. So, yeah, you've got 3 teams there that hopefully are on holiday mode. They'll be similar to us. There'll be players that are playing for contracts. But apart from that, yeah, you'd like to think that we can go in there and that us having something on the line is going to mean a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It's just keeping that momentum going, mate, isn't it? And yeah, like I said, 4th place after last 15 games in the form table. It has creeped up almost, it feels like. I think, obviously, we've got the win at Luton away in the back end of January. And since then, it's just been consistent kind of performances, hasn't it, mate? And it has creeped out of nowhere, I feel like. But we're here now, and it's the final end of the season. There's something to play for, which is exciting, isn't it? Nonetheless, whatever regardless happens, like you say, one eye on next season, I suppose. You can take any kind of positive out of that as well. But it's just fantastic to be in this position where, you know, we've scored 41 goals all season. We conceded 41, but yeah, we've still got a chance of sneaking in there, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, as we said at the top of the show, whatever does happen over the next 4 games, it's going to stand us into good stead for next year. Whatever additions, whoever doesn't sign their contracts, I think we've got a good nucleus there now in terms of where we're going as a club, how we want to play now under Alex Neil. And as we said, we've had so many injuries over this sort of back end, mate. We haven't even really probably seen our best 11 on the pitch, I would say, altogether. So, listen, yeah, as I say, whatever happens, it stands us in good stead for next year. So, fingers crossed we can pull out 3 more decent results and not have to go into Burnley having to need to win or something in the last game of the season.
Just thinking that trip already up there the last game. I thought about it for the last couple of weeks, to be honest. I don't want that trip, to be honest, with something to play for, but getting closer and closer. But as we say, let's get a result Friday and go from there. And we get 6 more points this weekend. Don't know what I'll be doing myself. Right, that's a wrap. Ben, thank you for joining me today, mate. Much appreciated.
Always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure. Yeah, nice to be back. I feel like I say that quite a lot these days. After a few week hiatus.
I think you've got 3 more weeks of the season. Can you give me 3 more shows, mate?
Yeah, I will. I promise. I'll try and put golf on hold until then.
That's all recorded as well, so there we go. That's a wrap for tonight's show, everyone. Thank you for watching That Millwall Podcast. Be sure to follow us on socials at That Millwall Pod. Like the video if you've enjoyed. Be sure to comment below and let us know what you think about what myself and Ben have said. And the dream's still alive. 4 games to go, and it's all to play for. We'll be back probably on Thursday to preview the doubleheader at the weekend. Blackburn away to first, and then Norwich at home on the Monday. Cheers, everyone, and we'll speak to you again soon.